Sacred wells, the hidden healing waters of Britain. Across the countryside of Britain, far from busy roads and modern towns, there are places where water quietly rises from the earth. Sometimes the water emerges from beneath ancient stones. Sometimes it gathers in small pools beneath old trees. Sometimes it flows from a hillside through moss-covered rock. To many people, these places appear peaceful and ordinary. Yet for centuries, they were believed to be something far more significant. They were known as sacred wells. These wells and springs were places where people believed healing could occur, where prayers might be answered, and where the natural world seemed to touch the spiritual. The tradition of sacred wells in Britain is extremely old. Long before churches were built and long before written history recorded the lives of early communities, people already recognized certain springs as special places. Water has always held a powerful symbolic meaning. It sustains life, cleanses the body, and shapes the landscape. In many ancient cultures, water sources were treated with deep respect. A spring emerging from the ground seemed mysterious. It appeared as if the earth itself was offering something valuable. Because of this, many communities believed springs possessed spiritual or healing qualities. In Britain, these beliefs likely date back to prehistoric times and were later reinforced during the Celtic period. Archaeological discoveries show that water sources were often used for ritual activity. Coins, small objects, and metal items have been discovered in ancient springs. These objects were probably offerings. People placed them in the water as gifts to the spirit of the spring or as requests for healing or protection. When Christianity spread across Britain, many older traditions connected with sacred springs did not disappear. Instead, they were gradually absorbed into Christian practice. A well that had once been associated with local spirits might become connected with a Christian saint. The spring would then be renamed after that saint. For example, many wells across Britain are named after figures such as Saint Winifred, Saint Madron, or Saint Keen. Stories developed describing how the saint had discovered the spring or performed miracles there. These stories helped integrate older traditions into the new religious landscape. Visiting sacred wells became an important part of local religious life. People traveled to these places seeking healing, guidance, or spiritual comfort. In medieval Britain, some wells became significant pilgrimage destinations. Pilgrims might travel long distances on foot to reach a well believed to have special healing powers. When visitors arrived at the well, they often followed specific rituals. These rituals varied by location and the traditions associated with the spring. In some places, people drank the water directly from the well. In other words, they washed the affected part of their body in the water. Some wells were believed to cure eye diseases. Visitors might use the water to wash their eyes as they pray. Other wells were associated with skin conditions or joint pain. The belief was that the water itself contained healing properties. Sometimes the ritual involved walking around the well several times. This act of circling the well symbolized devotion and respect. The number of circles might be important. 3, 7, or 9 were often considered sacred numbers in folklore. Another well-known custom involved leaving offerings near the well. These offerings might be coins, small objects, or pieces of cloth tied to nearby trees. In Scotland and parts of northern England, these cloth offerings are often called clooties. A visitor would dip a piece of cloth into the water and then tie it to a branch near the well. The cloth symbolized the illness or problem that the person wished to leave behind. As the cloth slowly decayed in the natural environment, it represented the illness fading away. Even today, many sacred wells have nearby trees covered with ribbons and cloth pieces left by visitors. These offerings create a striking visual reminder of how long the tradition has endured. The locations of sacred wells often contribute to their atmosphere. Many are found in quiet natural settings. They may lie deep in woodland, beside ancient ruins, or along forgotten country paths. These surroundings create a sense of separation from everyday life. When visitors approach a sacred well, they often feel as though they are entering a place set apart from the ordinary world. This sense of calm and isolation may have strengthened the belief that these places possessed spiritual power. Some sacred wells gained regional or even national fame. Stories spread about miraculous healings associated with certain springs. One of the most famous examples is St. Winifred's Well in Wales. This well has been visited for centuries by pilgrims seeking healing. The site became an important pilgrimage destination during the medieval period and continues to attract visitors today. Another example is St. Madron's Well in Cornwall, which was historically visited by people seeking cures for illness. These wells became part of the cultural landscape, linking local communities with wider traditions of faith and healing. Although many sacred wells were associated with Christian saints, the traditions surrounding them often retained elements of older folk belief. Visitors might combine prayer with symbolic rituals such as tying cloth to trees or leaving small offerings. This blending of religious and folk traditions reflects the complex spiritual life of earlier communities. For many people, there was no contradiction between faith and folklore. Both were seen as ways of seeking healing and protection. Over time, the importance of sacred wells gradually declined. Advances in medicine and scientific understanding provided new explanations for illness. Hospitals and doctors replaced many of the roles that sacred wells once played. Yet the wells themselves did not disappear. Many remain in the landscape today, quietly continuing to flow. In the recent decades, interest in sacred wells has begun to grow again. Historians, archaeologists, and folklorists study these sites to understand how earlier communities interacted with the natural world. Visitors often travel to sacred wells out of curiosity, spiritual interest, or a desire to experience the peaceful atmosphere of these historic places. In locations such as this, the tradition of leaving offerings continues. Coins appear in the water, and colorful ribbons hang from nearby branches. Even those who do not believe in the well's healing power may still feel a sense of connection to the past when they visit these places. Sacred wells remind us that human history is deeply connected to the landscape. Long before modern technology, people turned to natural sources of water not only for survival but also for healing and spiritual comfort. The springs represented renewal, purification, and life. They symbolized the idea that the earth itself could provide healing. Today, as we stand beside these quiet pools of water, we are standing beside centuries of tradition. Generations of people came to these places carrying hopes, fears, and prayers. They believed the water might cure illness, restore health, or offer protection. Whether those beliefs were spiritual, symbolic, or psychological, the wells provided something powerful: hope.